So now let's switch in English because we have now Kevin. Kevin is directly here from Belgium, arrived just yesterday, and he will go today, right? So thank you for being here. And Kevin is a developer advocate in Red Hat, and he is he's fan of Lazio football team. And you will discover also why I'm telling you now this thing. And he's studied in Rome, so he in reality speaks really well Italian, but this talk will be in English. And so Kevin, what will you talk about?
So I'll be talking about cloud-native CI/CD. So we're going to see a little how we can do a continuous integration pipeline purely in the cloud with containers, and then GitOps with ArgoCD.
Amazing. So we will see again during the Q&A session. Write down your question where you can ask him everything you want. And remember that everything is recorded, so in next weeks you can see all the talks that you are attending now. So a huge round of applause for Kevin.
All right, let's get right into it. And by the way, if you have questions afterwards, you can ask them in Italian. Parlo anche italiano. All right, so who recognizes this? FileZilla. So we're talking about continuous integration, continuous delivery, but this is how I started, right? At a static website, or even a little bit dynamic, maybe PHP or something, and you would use FTP, drag and drop, and so I made this website back in the late 90s. Let's see, it doesn't show very well, but I went to there's a Wayback Machine. So there's this website, and you can go look at old websites that existed once in a while. And I went to look today, and so like they were saying, I'm still a Lazio fan, but I was back then too, and it still exists. A long time ago, right? Because Campione d'Italia is quite a while for Lazio. But yeah, so forzalazio.com was my website, and so I did continuous delivery with FTP, let's say. Anyway, funny anecdote. So then a few years later, I was working at a company, and we were, as developer, because I was a software engineer, still am, and but we were in charge of delivering our applications. And so it was more advanced, let's say. We were using, first Subversion, then actually Git. And, but so we would do our checkout, and then we would synchronize between the different servers with rsync, So it was a moderner way, and then I wrote this Python scripts to automate it and everything. It was crazy. But there were a lot of issues with that. So, let's see how we can do things better, right? Hopefully you're already doing something a little better than that, but, So you have this developer flow, right? So we're writing our code, doing our inner loop development. So we're writing our code, we're doing some testing, debugging, and blah, blah, blah. And then at some point, our code will be, let's say good enough, and then we'll create a pull request, ideally. Somebody might review it, and then, ideally there's some continuous integration pipeline or something that's running. We'll do some compliance, maybe some security checks, making sure there's no vulnerabilities. And then, we'll need to deploy. So, I added 2 logos here to my outer loop, because those are the projects that we're talking about today. So we have Tekton with the cute little tomcat there, and then ArgoCD with our squid. So those are the projects we're talking about today. So when we're talking about CI/CD, and so you saw in my title maybe it was continuous IDD. So I kind of made that up as continuous integration, delivery, and deployment. So, in a continuous integration, we would build, test, maybe do some security checks, release, and, so that's a continuous integration. And then at some point, we'll deploy to our staging, to production, And so we have continuous delivery to actually, make that all automated delivering to, well, ideally to production, or, to have it at least ready to deploy to production. So the main difference between the two, continuous delivery and continuous deployment, basically means continuous delivery is you have it ready to be deployed. You have certain things that are deployable, but you're not going to do it automatically. You're going to wait until maybe the business gives a green light, or until certain features mature or something. And continuous deployment really being, we have confidence in our pipelines and in our automation. Everything, is tested properly, and we have all these checks in place that we can just say, once let's say our merge request, our pull request gets approved, automatically it's going to go through all the stages and deploy directly to production. So that's for the bravest of us all, right? So I want to have your participation for this. So we're going to deploy a feature. So we're going to first have a first version of our application, and then we'll use CI/CD and GitOps to deploy our new feature. So I'm going to do that with a game. So this is the game that you're going to play. So here on the left, you can see what you're going to see on your phone. So I'm going to show a QR code, and then you're going to see that on your phone, a little windmill that you're going to power by tapping on your phone. And so by powering, the windmill is going to create energy for these little cars to be moving. So you're going to be divided up into two teams randomly, and then you're going to race against each other, okay? So that's the game we're going to play, and then we'll release a new feature afterwards that's going to make it even more funny. So the architecture of this game, you have your application, your web application, that's going to make a REST call. So every time you tap, makes a REST call to generate power. And then on my side, on the dashboard of the game, I'm going to receive these events. So it's going to post them to a Kafka cluster, to a Kafka topic, and then I'm going to read those events in the dashboard. And this game is written in Quarkus. So if any Java developers are here, you can build Java games, of course, but Quarkus is a really cool project. So you can use Java, but it's more cloud native because it starts up really fast, is much smaller. So if you're into Java development, definitely check out Quarkus. And I have some Quarkus stickers here, so you can grab some on the way out if you'd like. So let's play a game, right? So please scan the code if you want to play, and I highly recommend you do. There's no tracking or anything. It's just something that I'm running. So I'm going to give you just a second to do that. So everybody's ready, scanning. I'll give a minute, make sure everybody's ready. Okay, so I'm going to go to my dashboard. I'll refresh it real quick. So hopefully everybody sees the windmill that they're going to be tapping. So we see 38 people in team 1, 38 in team 2, so we're evenly divided. If it wasn't the case, don't worry, because it's an average, which also means that if you have the game on your phone, you have to tap, okay? Because otherwise you're dragging your team down. So if everybody's ready, 3, 2, 1. All right, tap, 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 tap. Let's see. We got team 1 in the lead, so team 2 needs to tap a little faster. Come on, team 2. Uh-oh. Team 2 is dragging behind. Come on, team 2, last chance. Team 1 won, nice, good job. Who was team 1? Bravo. Who was the player with the username Sampe? You are the best tapper of them all. Good job. All right, so that's our first version of the game, right? So we have this game running in our Kubernetes cluster. So what if we added a new feature to this game? So instead of tapping, let's make it more realistic, right? Because we're creating energy with the wind and whatever. So we're going to shake our phone this time to create energy. So it's going to use your accelerometer on your phone to create the energy. So I'm going to develop this feature. And of course, I'm going to try to release it on Friday at 4:45 p.m. Like, hey, ops, deploy my game. And ops is like, come on, seriously, Kevin, again? And you know what happens, of course. You know, we release this feature Friday night, and then everybody's up in the middle of the night because things didn't go right. So who's been in this scenario? I have. All right. So going back to that developer flow, so you know, I'm going to be developing in my inner flow. You're going to see this is going to be really hardcore development. And then I'm going to maybe do a pull request, but I'll probably just push it straight to my main branch to save some time. YOLO, right? And then we're going to go through our outer loop. So I have a pipeline set up with Tekton, and then ArgoCD will deploy my features. So how we're going to do that, so what is Cloud Native CI/CD? It basically means that your CI/CD works in containers, right? So you are using containers for all your processes, for your tasks that you're running, in a serverless way, ideally. So Tekton works serverlessly, which means that it's going to create well, you define how you are going to run your pipeline, but you're not actually using resources, right? So you're going to create tasks. And then once you run a task that can be like a Git clone or Maven install or package or pip install or what have you, and then maybe push to your container to somewhere, you build a container, push it somewhere. But for each one of those tasks, it's just going to create a container at the time that it needs to run that task. It's going to run its job and then scale back down to 0. So serverless means, you know, scaling on demand and not using resources if you don't need them. So we're going to embrace, you know, the full DevOps cycle. So Tekton is a project that allows us to do that. So it works, of course, with Kubernetes. And so some concepts with Tekton. So you have the concept of a step and a task. So a task is a group of steps. So steps can be Maven test, Git clone, and you can have multiple tests in a task. And a task is basically a deployable unit of a step or a group of steps in your pipeline, right? And then you have a pipeline, which then is a set of tasks that you're running. So you can run them, you can chain them, so one after the other, or you can run multiple tasks concurrently as well. So you can do your build at the same time as you're running your tests, or, you know, so you can be pretty flexible with that. And then you have the implementation of those definitions, right? So if you're familiar with Kubernetes custom resources, basically the task run and the pipeline run are the actual implementation of your definition. So that's how that works. So here's a very simple example of one of those Tekton pipelines. So you see we have, you know, kind pipeline, so, you know, of Tekton, and then you have those tasks. And the tasks, you can define them. Those are definitions that are separately defined, so you can reuse them in different pipelines. You can share them. You even have a hub, and I'll show that in a second, where you can actually reuse tasks and find them in a hub. And then in those tasks, you can also define parameters to say, you know, I have this task that I reuse in different pipelines, but for this pipeline, I want to use this Git repository or these parameters, and for this task, I want to use these pipelines. And then you have the concept of workspaces to share state between different tasks, right? Because kind of useless if you're doing a Maven package and then you're not using the artifact in the next step to build your container, well then where is your artifact going to be, right? So that's how you can maintain state between tasks. And then, like I said, you have the Tekton hub, which you can access on the internet, which has already built tasks that you can use in your pipeline. So you don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel and create all these steps custom, or, you know, find container images that have, you know, like Maven already installed or something. So you can use tasks and then just define your specific use case with them. So, you know, you have an example of a few of here, but there's a whole bunch of them that are predefined. And then you also have a CLI, of course. So you can use a Tekton CLI to start a pipeline, to create a pipeline, view your logs, and all that good stuff as well. So that's your CI, right? We're going to build a pipeline. We're going to build our artifact, create a container, push it, whatever. And then how are we going to deploy this application? Well, ideally, we're going to use GitOps. So what is GitOps? It basically means Git is your single source of truth, right? So you're going to define how your application should be deployed, how many replicas you want to use, where should the container image be coming from, how you configure your application and everything, and you're going to define that in, in typically YAML, right? And you're going to store that in Git. And then you can basically treat everything as code the way that you do with your applications that you're already probably using Git with. So you can use the same operations, the same flow that you're using. So you can use merge requests. You can see who changed something, what they changed, when they changed. So you can have the audits of everything that's been done. So if you kind of wonder what's the difference between CI/CD and GitOps, well, CI/CD basically is a one-way street, right? So you go through your pipeline, you do this and that, and then that's it, right? The pipeline does its thing, and that's it. A GitOps, on the other hand, means that you have certain things that you want to deploy, certain things that you want to configure, and then it's going to monitor to make sure that what you have defined in your Git repository as this is my desired state of my deployment, of my cluster configurations, of my multiple clusters even, and this is what I want. And GitOps is going to monitor that and make sure that that's actually what's running on your cluster as well. So it's going to mitigate and make sure that it matches, so it can do that automatically. So let's say I want to create a deployment. I'm going to change my image tag, and GitOps is going to notice that, hey, you want to deploy a new version, and so it'll deploy that because it notices the version of your application doesn't match with what we have defined as our new version. Or you can do this manually too. So that you can say, okay, this is ready. GitOps says, hey, there's a difference between your desired state and what's actually running on your cluster. Would you like me to make it match? And it goes the other way around as well, so that if somebody changes something on your cluster, GitOps will notice that and say, hey, something is different on your cluster than what you have defined as your desired state. So would you like me to, fix that, so that if I, as the developer, go into the cluster and start making some changes or something, actually we'll notice that that doesn't match, and so we can automatically mitigate that or manually do that. Because if somebody changes something on the cluster without defining it in our Git repository, it means that we have no traceability potentially of who changed what, when it was changed, and then potentially it could mean that next time we release, we overwrite what we wanted to fix in the first place. That Friday night hot fix that we're trying to do or something, right? All right, so let's deploy our new feature, right? So I'm going to develop my new feature to shake our phones, and so I'll do some really hardcore live coding. I have no idea what I'm doing. That's pretty much true. All right, so I have my Git repository here, so you can access this. So we have this Red Hat developer demos, and basically this is just a fork of this project. So I'll share the links afterwards as well. So I have my application here, and what I've already done is I actually have this feature already ready. I'm just going to change a little feature flag for my front end to use it. So I have this source and my configuration here. And so I'm going to just do my development right in GitHub. And we're going to disable tapping. So we have no cheaters that are tapping when they should be shaking. And then we're going to release our new feature, our shaking feature. All right, so I'm going to commit my changes. Let's say enable shaking. And commit directly? Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm committed this change, and so because I have a webhook already configured, I'm now going to call my pipeline. So I'm running this on OpenShift, the Kubernetes implementation, and here's my application. So you can see here my Quarkus application. Here's my Kafka topic that's running on a Kafka cluster. I have a caching database based on InfiniSpan. Make it a little bigger. And then here's my trigger for, that listens to the webhook. And so because I made a commit, I hopefully I have the Tekton pipelines integrated in my OpenShift. So if you use OpenShift, you can use OpenShift pipelines, which uses Tekton. Or if you're using another Kubernetes, you can also use Tekton and install it. And so we can see here, pipeline is running. So the webhook worked. And we can see we're doing a Git clone. Then we're going to do a Maven package. Then we're going to use Builda, which is a tool to build container images. And then we're going to push it to a Quay repository. And then in our last step, we're going to update our my customize file. So customize is a way to customize some manifests. So I actually have another repository here. So Quinoa wind turbine manifests, where I have my definitions of my pipeline, or not my pipeline, well, actually also my pipeline, but of the deployment of my game, the service and everything. And so you see here's the customization file, and we see that the source, the container image is coming from Quay. That's the one that we're going to push to from our pipeline. And then here's a digest that points to the exact digest tag of my container image. And so I'm going to update that with my pipeline. So we can see that the pipeline ran. So here we can see in our logs that we pushed it and we updated a digest. And we're going to update our Git repository with the manifests with that. So the CI/CD pipeline did that. And so if we refresh here, we can see that it updated somewhere, but it seems to have pushed to the wrong repository is my guess. So this is going to be interesting. Let's see. We pushed to Red Hat developers. So we pushed to the wrong repository. So this is going to be a little disappointing. Let's see. So what we can do is, sorry? Yeah, manually. Yeah, we can do that. Why not? All right, so let's go to quay.io, and I hope I have some time. Let's do some real hacking, something that we shouldn't be doing, but I'm still going to use GitOps because I'm going to do it in the pipeline. All right, so let's see if we can find it. So quinoa. And let's find the digests that we're looking for. All this talk about automation and then we're doing something. That's awesome. All right, so let's pretend that my pipeline did this. Did it, was it the same? Seems like it. That's weird. Okay, I'm going to look in ArgoCD and see what it's doing. Okay, somehow this is working. It works. I don't know why. It doesn't work. I don't know why. Anyway, so yeah, surely the live demo effect, but it is working, which is very strange. All right, so anyway, so we can see here that ArgoCD noticed my change that somehow happened, and it's deploying my new feature automatically, right? So it's mitigating my desired state and making sure that it matches automatically with what's defined in my cluster, and then it's going to tear down the previous containers. So ideally, we've deployed our new features. So let's see. So let's see what happened in theory, which somehow magically did. So we had our source Git repository. So we went through our pipeline. We pushed our image, then we created a pull request, or in this case, we did it automatically. We updated our Git repository, and our CD, our GitOps noticed the change and is going to update the Kubernetes cluster. So, and we're using ArgoCD for that. So ArgoCD is an implementation of GitOps. So you have ArgoCD, you have FluxCD. In my case, I was using ArgoCD. And so let's see if it actually deployed, right? So you can refresh the game if you already have it on your phone, or you can rescan it. And then hopefully it says enable shaking. Does it say that? Yes, okay, so cool, it worked. All right, so go ahead and tap the enable shaking, and then you'll see the same windmill. And then if everybody's ready, I see a couple more people scanning. Oh, sorry. I see. One more. Okay, so let's go back to our game. I'm gonna refresh here. We deployed our new feature. We need to log in again. Okay, so our players are loading. So we got 34 versus 34 again. And so if everybody's ready, one warning, hold on to your phone tight, okay? Don't want any injuries here, please. Okay, 3, 2, 1, so shake your phone. Shake, 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 shake. Wow, the cars are going very fast. I was gonna take a picture. Wow, that was really fast. I'm a little disappointed in you, Team 2. That's two times, though. Come on. So who was Nogami? You're very good at the shaking. Nice. So, yeah, it was very close. Yeah, it was very, very close. Wow, that's. I should take a screenshot of that. So that's the closest I've ever seen. All right, screenshot. There we go. Okay, so we released our new feature with going through our pipeline. So we scaled up tasks, scaled them back down, and then pushed our container image, updated our manifest somehow, and then so we noticed our GitOps noticed our changes, ArgoCD noticed our changes, and then released a new version automatically in a rolled out fashion, so that we didn't have any downtime. Right? It created new pods, left the old pods until the new pods were released, so it shifted traffic to the new version. So that's basically, in a very quick way, how you can do cloud-native CI/CD with Tekton, and then use GitOps with ArgoCD. So you can use that, with Kubernetes. It's very nicely integrated in OpenShift. So if you like OpenShift, or if you want to try it out, this is a free way to use it. So there's an OpenShift sandbox. If you go to developers.redhat.com, so you can start playing with it. It has Tekton also integrated in the sandbox, which is a free environment to try it out. GitOps, you can use an ArgoCD externally to use it with that sandbox. We also have a GitOps cookbook, and we have one of the authors right here, Natale, right there. And so if you go to the Red Hat booth, we have some books available there, right? But you can also download it for free using that link. And then, you can use it on whatever device you want. So definitely take a look at that. So it goes into a lot more detail, how you can use GitOps, how to use it with secrets and everything too. So it's a very cool book written by an awesome author. And then there's some more books that you can download for free with the Red Hat Developer Program. So if you don't have a free account there yet, okay, I'm working for Red Hat, so I'm a little biased, but it's a really cool program. Also, there's some tutorials that you can go through so you can try it out and everything. Here are the slides that I used today. And I'll post them on my Twitter as well. So sorry if somebody was scanning the previous. You can also scan this, and I'll share it in a little bit on Twitter, or if you have Blue Sky or one of the other things, so you can follow it there. And that's it. So thank you for joining me and playing along with our game. I hope this was interesting. If you have any questions, I'll be around for a few more hours before my flight. And like I said, fate le domande anche in italiano, non c'è problema. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions that you would like to ask to Kevin? You just have to raise your hand. No? I have a question not made from me, of course, but from Serena, that was looking at your talk, and she asked me, I've heard of Argo rollouts as well. Is the same thing as ArgoCD?
No, so it's also by the Argo project. So what Argo rollouts does is it rolls out, so what we saw today was basically from one version to the next one. So we just flipped our traffic to our new version. So with Argo rollouts, you can actually take it a step further and roll it out, based on some predefined ways. Like for example, you can roll out to, let's say, a subset, like 10% of your users that use the new version. You can see how your application is behaving, and then roll out to 20% to 30%. And you can do that automatically with Argo rollout. So you can say, hey, I want to roll it out in steps. So I can, roll it out to 10%, wait for a minute or a day or something, then roll it out to X amount, and then wait again. But you can do that automatically. So you don't have to actually go in and change that. Or you can say, roll it out to a subset of users based on a user agent or something. You can mirror your traffic to a new version. So that means that your end users are still seeing the version 1, but you're actually cloning your traffic to version 2, so you can see how it behaves under a real load without your traffic actually going there. So there's some really cool ways of really kind of testing on production, but doing it in a controlled fashion, in an automated fashion. And you can even do, with Argo rollouts, have it look at metrics that your application is producing to see, like, hey, roll out to 10%, look at the metrics that are happening. So let's say there's a certain percentage of 500 errors that I'm seeing in Prometheus or some other metrics program that you're using. And if it goes above that threshold of errors that you've defined, it can automatically roll back your rollout. So Argo rollout is a really cool project. It's a little more complicated to install and everything. But it's also a talk that I do, so you can find it, I think on my YouTube, probably I have a talk of that too. So if you're interested in that,
Great, thank you. I hope I will be able to explain it to Serena. Yeah, do you have a question?
Nel nuovo operator di Tekton hanno deprecato i cluster task, ok? A favore dei resolver.
Mm-hmm.
Quanto cambia quindi questo nella definizione delle pipeline?
Non ho capito la domanda. Allora, ci sono i cluster task, sì.
The cluster task are deprecated in the new operator
sì.
of Tekton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay. Now we have the resolver. What is the difference?
Let's see, is Natale here? Natale. La differenza fra questo...
Ok. Ma è l'operatore OpenShift Pipeline? Ok, l'ultimo su OpenShift. Ok, deprecati perché non li usiamo, l'operatore non li installa più automaticamente, forse in futuro verranno rimossi. E secondo me, guarda, non ho la motivazione tecnica, dobbiamo chiedere a engineering. Vedo che nella upstream vengono usati i resolve. Questo è un nuovo meccanismo, evidentemente vogliono allinearsi ad upstream, perché come sai la versione dell'operatore è una certa versione di Tekton controller supportata, evidentemente dalla prossima vogliono andare... Sì. Però questa è la motivazione community, però quella di ingegneria tecnica possiamo chiedere, ti possiamo dare un riscontro successivamente.
Yeah.
Prego.
Yeah. See, no, it's a good question because yeah, I mean it kind of shows the how Red Hat works with community too, because sometimes the implementation that we're using, we'll see that there's kind of a missing piece, and then we might add that to our midstream. And then if we see that in the community they're going in a different direction, what we don't want with our community projects is that we diverge, that we fork from upstream. So then, so for example, with the cluster task, maybe we don't see the uptake in community, there's another solution to this, then we'll try to go to the community version. Yeah, so we want to make sure that, we don't lock in and have divergence between the two projects. So yeah, very good question. And thank you, Natale, for backing me up there.
Just support. Any other question? If no, I think Kevin will be here the whole day, so he's able to answer and get in touch with him, of course. So a big round of applause again, please.